So hi everyone, how you going? You're here with Bo. I'm currently live from Singapore, sitting in my hotel room, as you can probably see behind me. Yeah, really good to dial in actually and to talk to you guys. It's obviously been a while since I've done a video, and it's been a while since I've actually done a live stream as well. I've had a very busy past 5 days. I've been in Singapore for the last 5 days at the Blockchain Economic Forum. Yeah, and I just want to do this live stream to talk a little bit about that, about some of the amazing people I got to meet, some of the things I learned. I learned a lot, got to meet and connect with some really senior people in the cryptocurrency industry. Also, I participated as well, so I spoke and moderated two panels actually at the forum. So I was really busy, and I actually brought my camera. As you can see here, I actually did bring my camera, and I did plan on vlogging, and I planned on recording stuff, but I really underestimated just how busy I was actually going to be, especially as a participant, because I had to, and as a moderator, because I had to research and prepare and do questions and stuff, and I was pretty unprepared for the filming side. So I learned a lot about that as well, and about my own capacity and what I can actually take on and do, and not to take on too much, because honestly it was such a big few days. I just don't think I could have taken on any more than what I did. So what I might even do next time is actually bring someone along with me to actually film, because what I really wanted to do for the channel was just to record some of the talks, because some of the talks were so good. You know, for anyone out there either investing or learning about cryptocurrencies, you really could have gained a lot. And hopefully the team at Blockchain Economic Forum will either make some of that public, or I might even be able to get some of the footage from them to actually show you guys. So yeah, I can see a comment about DataDash. Yeah, we'll get to that. So I'll just go through some of the people that I actually got to meet here, which was really one of the massive highlights for me. So yeah, I did meet DataDash, Nicholas Merton. Had a good chat to him on a number of occasions, and my takeaway from him is I'm just so impressed. I'm so impressed for someone as young as him. He's very articulate, he's very well spoken, and he's very professional. You know, if I was half what he is at that age, I would have been very happy. But you know, he's built up this audience, he's built up this massive channel because of how he conducts himself. You know, I was just extremely impressed with his integrity, and watching him on panels as well. I'll show you guys some photos soon. Really good speaker as well, very good public speaker, and I just think he's got a tremendous future ahead of him. So it was a real pleasure. He's very level-headed, so it was just a real pleasure to meet him. And could be some exciting times ahead. Actually, he's actually coming to Australia, and there could be some there could be a meetup. We'll have to wait and see. It really is based around his schedule and what he's doing, and he's got a lot to do, and he's sort of traveling the world. So yeah, well, g'day Peter. So I have to wait and see. But the other person I met was Shashwa. He's actually one of the main guys behind Altcoin Buzz. There's a whole team behind that YouTube channel. That was one of the things that fascinated me, actually, meeting some of these YouTubers. Not DataDash. I think DataDash is a one-man show, as am I. I do everything myself. But some of these YouTube channels have got teams of people behind them, you know, researching the content, producing the content, and that's why they can push so much out. When you're a one-man show like I am, and I put so much production quality into the videos, it just is so much work. So that was another thing I took away from that, was potentially, if I want to keep going down this path and sticking with consistency with YouTube, is actually getting some support, because it is just a tremendous amount of work, especially with the other stuff I've got going on with the consulting and stuff as well. So that was one thing I took away from that. Some other people I got to meet was a man by the name of Nick Duretta, I think his surname is. He's actually the CEO of the Australian Digital Commerce Association, the ADCA, and he was actually on one of the panels. I got to meet him, and I'm actually hoping to get him on the channel for an interview. I was picking his brain on how the Australian government is sort of perceiving cryptocurrencies. Is it optimistic? Is it pessimistic? How is it sitting? And he was actually very optimistic. about where cryptocurrency is sitting with the Australian government. So he will be a fantastic person to get on the channel if I can end up lining up that interview with him, which I actually hope I can in the future. Some other people I met. I met Tony Vase, the famous Tony Vase. He's a really interesting guy. I couldn't believe it. He actually live streams, he told me, 1 to 2 times a day, even from wherever he is in the world. Incredibly hard worker. And watching him on the panels as well was really interesting. You know, he is very Bitcoin maximalist, but he backs himself too. And he is extremely knowledgeable on the technical side of Bitcoin as well, and the cryptography. So it was really interesting seeing. So it was really interesting seeing his perspective. Actually, I mean, even if people don't share the same opinion as me, you can still learn from it. So I met some guys behind a company called Coral. Corl, which was really interesting. They're actually going to be Canada's first, if not the world's first, registered securities token, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but that was super interesting meeting those guys. I met some of the team behind Game Tester as well. They're like an Australian-based company for like testing games and things. I only briefly met a lady by the name of Tony Lane. She was actually one of the co-founders of Cointelegraph, which is massive. I met one of the guys behind ICOrating.com, which is probably my #1 research for actually looking into ICOs, some really high-level analytical thought processes going into the reviews that they do. And I just met a ton of Australians. That was one thing that surprised me, actually, was just how many Australians were at the conference. There were a lot of private investors. There was a lot of people from the traditional financial services industry here just to learn more about cryptocurrencies, just to gain a feel for where the market's going, just to learn a bit more about the technology and the investment side. That was really interesting. I met a heap of cool guys from Byron Bay, a heap of cool girls from Byron Bay as well that were here. So many Australians, which was really incredible. So I'll show you guys some photos. Who caught a live one? So here are a few photos. Here's actually just the first day. How many people? I could not believe how many people were at this event. The line was just absolutely massive. Here's a photo of me and Shash, the guy behind Altcoin Buzz, on the left there, and Nicholas Merton from Data Dash. As you can see, we're all around the same height, so that was good. There's just another photo of just all the people lining up, and that was just day one. There was so many people there. Here's a talk on like AI and blockchain, which was really interesting. This was a really interesting talk on regulation, and the guy in the middle, that's Nick. That's the managing director of the Australian Digital Commerce Association, and the guy on the far left is Josh. He's part of like a Mauritius private investment fund. He was a really knowledgeable guy as well. It was really good to meet him. Here's a photo of me and Randall from Crypto Love. He was there as well, so it's good to meet him too. There was a lot of YouTubers there, which was good. Here was a talk I was watching with Nicholas, who was moderating this one, and you can see Tony Vase in the middle there chatting, definitely making some of the other panel members sweat with some of his comments, but that was a really good one to watch. Here was just me at the end of the event. I just had to get a photo. This was one of the panels I was moderating. This was on token securities and utilities, and how different governments around the world are basically going to view tokens and where they sit, and how that's going to affect not only the cryptocurrency companies but also investors as well, because there'll be changes to essentially the tokens will have to be registered as securities if they do go down that path. So that was really interesting. I think that might be, yeah, that's the last one. There was another photo, but I don't know what happened to that one. So really interesting stuff, and I guess my takeaways from it, to pass on, I guess, what I learned to all of you guys, was the industry is extremely optimistic. It's very, very optimistic, even though the market was literally crashing beyond belief during the few days. Hardly anyone actually talked about it. You know, it was kind of like it was in the back of people's minds. It was like it was bad, but everyone knows where the industry's going. Everyone knows how early we are. So it never really came up, which was actually really refreshing. You did see a few people in the corner checking their block folios, but overall, it was actually very optimistic. Second thing is, token utility and security classification likely will be a big deal in the long run. And this is something you need to keep in consideration if you are investing in cryptocurrencies, because not only will it be potential ICOs being shut down, like a couple have in the US now, Munchie being one of them, but there could actually be existing tokens out there right now being traded that could end up becoming classed as securities. Now, it is obviously still an if, and it is obviously still a grey area as well, but it is something you need to keep in mind. It is something you need to keep in mind. And one of the panels I moderated, which was on this talk, actually had one of the senior guys from Singapore who deals in this. And he's actually saying Singapore's been pretty good with their laws around token classification. But these guys basically think in the future that 90% of cryptocurrencies will be classed as securities. So really something to keep in mind. Probably the best way, I guess, to protect yourself would just be to research a lot and stay on top of the news. Stay on top of any articles around that. And this is what the court case, I think, yesterday, or the hearing yesterday in the United States was about how the SEC will view tokens. And it was actually optimistic. They kind of said, look, we'll just put up our hands and we'll just sort of leave it for now. But it is just something I think is important to keep in the back of your mind. Another one is, it's obviously very energetic and enthusiastic sentiment. So everyone involved in this, you can tell it's still very new, but there's so much energy, there's so much optimism, and there's so much enthusiasm for the future. Lots of private investors interested in cryptocurrencies, lots of people from VC or venture capital, and that's something I wasn't really familiar with, something I'm not experienced in. And so hearing from those people that have had like 10 years in private investment in VC and then learning crypto and starting to invest in crypto, you're getting a perspective from the traditional side of investment and then the new side of cryptocurrency investment. VC still obviously exists, and these guys think that ICOs and IPOs or VC, they'll coexist. But hearing those guys' perspective on both was really interesting. And they're very optimistic on cryptocurrencies in the future too, which I think is a really good sign. And lastly, like I said earlier, I just need to be better prepared, I think, for the next conference, depending on how much I want to film. And as I said at the start, what I'm probably going to do is probably take someone along with me just to do the filming. Not to film me, but just to film the actual events, the actual talks, so I can post them on the YouTube channel, because, you know, they're not going to get massive hits, but for the people who want to sit there and spend the time to watch them, I think you'll really get a lot out of them just hearing different people's opinions from these talks. So that's something I really want to work on in the future. So yeah, other than that, it was a great 5 days. I'm really grateful to the team at LA Token for inviting me and for allowing me to participate. And I've just met so many awesome people here. It's just been a tremendous 4 or 5 days. Exhausting, like I'm exhausted, but it was just awesome, and I highly recommend to you guys, if you ever get the opportunity. You know, it's obviously not cheap. The tickets aren't cheap. I got a free ticket, but I had to get my own way here. It's not cheap, but if you do get the opportunity one day, you know, you really will get a lot from it. Yeah, thanks, Neil. So yeah, so I guess just taking a quick look at the market, guys. So I've obviously had a bounce. I've had a bit of a bounce. I'm still pretty cautious, to be honest. You know, what are we at? We're at 365 at the moment. You know, it's sort of bounced, but it's not moving too much more past that. I'll just be interested. I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines, just watching it at the moment. I don't think you're going to have a really quick recovery after such a massive dump over the past few weeks. You know, I kind of just don't see that happening. There's obviously some optimism returning, and that's probably a lot of that has to do with what has come out of the US in regards to the SEC and the security classification. But, you know, I don't just think it's going to be a massive rocket over the next few days. So maybe just sit on the sidelines. That's what I'm doing, sitting on, just watching it, keeping an eye on it, seeing what it's going to do, engaging from there, and seeing what other news and stuff comes out as well, because obviously the news affects it so much. And it was funny too, a lot of people were asking me during the past couple of days, what caused this? Well, it's so many things. You can't point it to one thing. It was just a snowball effect over the past couple of weeks that led to where it was. So yeah, it'd just be interesting to sit on the sidelines and actually just to see kind of where it goes from here. But other than that, we've got some pretty big gainers. We've got Ethos obviously at 51.25%. Ethos having a massive pump. I think Ethos are announcing on Friday. I think I saw that they're going to announce some team member that they've got on board. I mean, it must be pretty significant for them actually to do an official live announcement or something. I've obviously got no idea who it is, but it must be significant. So whether that has something to do with that, I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Crypto winter, not even looking at it till. Yeah. Hey, big shout out from Melbourne. What's your take on Nano XRP? I'm not sure what that is, mate. Sorry. But how you going? Again, guys, I just can't believe how many Australians I met at this conference. A lot of people that just weren't participating in the actual talks, but just came along to the event just to learn more. It was awesome. So yeah. So just while I wait for a few questions to come through, because if you guys got any questions, I'll answer some. But just some updates on the channel and the website too. So I put out a tweet a little while ago about just showing the cover page of the website. The website is just looking absolutely gorgeous. This amazing person from the US, who I will be giving many a shout out, built this website for free for me, just offered to do it. And it's looking absolutely incredible. I've basically been spending a lot of time over the past couple of weeks updating the content. It's going to have a built-in forum. It's actually going to have a built-in forum. Oh, Rayblox. Oh, they changed the name. That's right. Oh, of course. I noticed the XRB. I've done a review on Rayblox, so I suggest if you want my take on Rayblox, I would go and watch the review. I mentioned keeping up with the news. Which sources do? I look at a number of sources. I get a lot of my information from Twitter. Twitter, if you follow the right people, you can get some amazing information. CoinDesk is obviously good. Cointelegraph do have some good articles, but I've seen a couple of sloppy ones as well. So you just kind of got to take what you can from that. But Twitter is the number one, and Twitter obviously always has links to different news sources. And the best way to look at news is not just to get it from one source. I look at a bunch of sources and I make my kind of conclusion or my decision based on the best or what I perceive to be the most legitimate from a number of different sources. If tokens are classed as securities, how will that affect us? Well, it can affect you in a number of ways as an investor, because basically, if a token is classed as security, it means that the company behind the token, the team, the founders, have to register that token in the jurisdiction of the country that they're based in. And that means going through a bunch of regulation. And a number of cryptocurrencies exchanges will not list tokens classed as security. So if a particular token is classed as security out of nowhere, there's a high risk it could get delisted from a bunch of exchanges, and that's going to drop your liquidity. And there's no doubt in my mind you're probably going to see a drop in price as well. And the founding members may not have either the capacity or the token may not actually fit into a security classification either. So they might go down that path. It might be costly. It might take them a long time, and it might not fit their original economic model for the cryptocurrency. So it actually does have a lot of implications. Yeah, David. Yeah, well, that's one way they've been getting around it from the ICO stage. Hey, Christopher. So back to the website. So the website also has a built-in forum. This is going to be one of the most exciting things about it, I think, and this is something the Cryptocurrency Australia community has been missing in terms of this channel. There's obviously fantastic Facebook groups out there that I'm not affiliated with at all, but it's got to have a built-in forum actually in the website, completely free, costs nothing to join. Just sit in there and talk, and that's what it's going to be all about, just talking and interacting with one another, learning from one another, building the community, and just having a good place for people to hang out and chat about crypto. So that's one thing I'm really, really excited about, and that is very close. I've just actually, the data is transferring from the basically the test server domain name, which has been on to build it, and onto the actual official domain, which will be cryptocurrencies.com. So I'm really stoked to get that domain name as well. And I may even have a writer on board to be writing articles and writing reviews on the actual website as well. That's one thing I'm really excited about, is to actually potentially see where this website's going to go, because it's going to be blog, it's going to be obviously copies of the news videos from the YouTube channel, it's going to be the forum, it's going to be educational resources on there as well for people who want to know more about cryptocurrencies. Yeah, I just want to see where it goes from there. So I could actually have a writer on board as well, which I'm really excited about. The Prophet, hey man. Yeah, I did. It's been crazy. I go home today. Actually, I'm looking forward to getting home. I miss my wife and I miss my little baby girl as well. So, yeah, looking forward to getting home. But it's been an awesome few days. Ryan, I knew a bit about Coin a while ago. It's hard for me to comment on that because I haven't been following them and I don't know all the latest development updates. So I'm probably a bit hesitant to comment on that one. But, yeah. I don't know enough about Komodo, Christopher, sorry. One day I'll get around to review all the tokens out there, but there's just so many, guys. Thanks, Tracy. It's been awesome. Ozcoin, yeah. I had a brief look into it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I could see was it's a token to somehow support cryptocurrency ATMs. This is what I will say. There are Bitcoin ATM and cryptocurrency ATMs out there right now in Australia that did not have an ICO, that do not need a cryptocurrency behind them to fund them. This concept has been tried before. If you remember, there was an ICO in the United States that had some wrappers behind it called Cream. I can't remember what Cream even stood for, but they were basically ICO fundraising with tokens for ATMs. In my mind, the two don't go hand in hand. Initial capital to fund some ATMs, in my mind, does not need to come from an ICO, and I don't know how a token would work in with that model. Binary, yeah, I talked about him before. He's a very articulate and intelligent young man. I think he's got a very promising future ahead of him. Binary, I'm very impressed with him. He's a great guy. So yeah, any other questions, guys? Because I'll probably wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. Shoot them through. Do I trade stories with other YouTubers, or do you all have it? No. Secret sources, none of it. I just research myself. I don't have any support behind me at all. I like Richard. And I think you'll find other YouTubers like Richard as well. That's alright, man. That's fine. Oh, this is another thing I wanted to share with you guys. A little bit of my personal story. Something I don't do very often, right? Probably a bit insecure, I guess, sometimes about sharing my personal stories. But this came after talking from one of the guys from Byron, and I was telling him a bit about it. And he said, do you talk about this stuff on your YouTube channel? And I said, no. And he said, you should. So I want to share a little bit about my story about public speaking and how scared I used to be of public speaking, and how now, being invited and participating in a conference, in a forum, and actually being asked to moderate was a real milestone for me. So about 10 years ago, I'm 30 now, so back when I was, in my early 20s, public speaking, as it is with many, many other people, was a tremendous fear for me. And I used to avoid, at all costs, talking in any kind of public forum. I would avoid it. I even, there would be jobs come up, I wouldn't put in for the jobs because I'd be too afraid that one day I might have to do public speaking. That's how bad it was. So anyway, when I got my job as a designer, I knew at that point, I kind of came to the conclusion, it was around about when I was around 23, I started to get ambitious. and I started to think, I really want to make something of my life, and I really want to grow and develop and go on to do something great. And I knew at that point the only way I was ever going to do it was to overcome my fear of public speaking. And I hated it because I didn't want to, because I was so scared. But I knew I'm not going to progress unless I overcome this fear, because this fear is holding me back from so much. It's holding me back from my entire life. I mean, there's so many stories I could share, the things that I missed out on because of that fear. So I ended up getting, someone mentioned to me something called Toastmasters, as Chad just mentioned there. And Toastmasters is a public speaking club where you join, and it's about a bunch of people going and getting better at public speaking. And you have this incredibly supportive environment of people who are in the same boat as you, who give you this opportunity to speak in these little segments. It might be for 1 minute, it might be 2 minutes, it might be 5 minutes. They bring you up, and then you end up going through this list of speeches. But when I joined, I was extremely scared about it. You know, I was shitting myself, essentially. Sorry to swear. I don't like to swear on this channel, but I was so scared, right? But I just kept saying to myself, "Oh, you're not going to progress in life unless you overcome this." So I remember sitting in my car before my first speech, and I was so nervous. I was so nervous. I nearly just turned around and drove off. I was just petrified. So I ended up getting up there, and I remember researching all these breathing techniques and these different things to do and these different ways to basically try and calm your nerves. I got through the talk, and then at the end, they give you feedback, but it's the most positive, nice feedback you can ever have, right? These people are so nice. And that's where it really all started for me. I ended up being in Toastmasters for a year, overcame so much of my fear, but it never fully went away. And the thing is, it never does fully go away. You just incrementally become more and more confident over time. So then Toastmasters was kind of like the real crunch point for what helped me move and progress in life. And I ended up getting a job as a project manager. And as a project manager, one of the biggest things is communication. You talk to people, you chair meetings, and some of the meetings are really tough because you might be dealing with contractors and you might be dealing with people who are upset about some of the project. And some of these meetings I would be so nervous about, but you just got to keep telling yourself. I remember just keep telling myself, "Bo, you're not going to progress. You're not going to go on to do anything unless you get over this fear. Just get in there and do it. What's the worst that can happen?" So anyway, being here now and being invited to these conferences and participating, I reflect and I think 2 or 3 years ago, if you had told me, someone had told me you were going to do that, I mean, I would have been speechless. I would have been petrified, absolutely petrified. But I guess it's what I want to share is that, you know, that was a massive part of my life was public speaking, and YouTube has actually significantly helped improve that as well, because you're talking, you're interacting with people, and you get better over time. If you even go and watch my early videos, you can see I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous in doing those early videos. So that's just a little bit about my personal story I thought I'd share that came from talking to a guy from Byron Bay. So hopefully some of you guys can relate. So anyway, a couple of questions and then I'll head off, guys. So I want to go and explore a bit of Singapore before I head off. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Thanks, David. Yeah, it's a really big deal, but it's one of those things, hey, where you know that in the back of your mind, you know that fear is holding you back. And it's sometimes, I know me, I would get to that point where I would get sick of the fear. I would get angry at the fear. I would get fed up, and I'd be like, why is this thing in me that's not in other people? It's holding me back. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. It's time just to push through. And, you know, it's crazy how much it can actually hold you back. Thanks, Patrick. No plans for a conference in Perth at the moment, but I have had a lot of people approach me to do talks, even in the last 5 days. I actually had someone invite me to do a talk in Jordan. So if that works out, that's going to be awesome. But Perth, No plans yet, but I think in the not too distant future, I think that's on the cards. I know I've been invited to a couple in Sydney to do. Whether or not I end up actually doing the event myself, I would have no idea how to make my own conference. But I do want to get around and do meetups. At a minimum, that is something I want to do in the future, Patrick. Question here from Wayne, where does my full-time job fit in? Well, this is my full-time job now, Wayne. I left my full-time job, my office job, in December last year. So YouTube's one of the things I do. So I teach cryptocurrency investment fundamentals on Udemy, which I want to actually share something with you guys that I actually haven't shared. This is my course. You can actually see here this little tag. It's actually been given the highest rated tag of all the cryptocurrency investment courses on Udemy, which I'm over the moon about. I'm so stoked to get that because it stands out, right? And it's a huge, like, for the amount of work I put in so much work, but I'm really grateful to get that. So this is one of the things I do. This obviously helps financially, this course, but I also consult. I can actually do cryptocurrency and blockchain consulting to startups. So I actually do have startups contact me through my company. My company is called Blockchain Management Solutions, and I run that, and I consult with that as well. So I do that on the side too. So all these things combined help me do this full time. Sorry, I'm talking with headphones. You talk about Tony Vay's appearance. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit. I did talk a little bit about Tony Vay's earlier. He was an interesting guy to meet. He's very Bitcoin maximalist. Like, he loves Bitcoin. He pretty much sees Bitcoin as the only cryptocurrency. But the thing about him is he's very smart too. He's very intelligent and he knows his stuff. He knows a lot about the technology and a lot about the cryptography. I don't agree that Bitcoin is going to be the only cryptocurrency, but that's okay. That's my take, and that's a lot of other people's as well. But he is smart. He gets up there and he backs himself. So you've got to give him respect for that. Am I coming to Canada? That's an interesting question. I actually got invited to Canada yesterday. Where am I based in Australia? I'm hesitant to say it over the internet, but I'm based on the east coast in between Brisbane and Sydney. So, alright guys, well that's probably it for me. I can't see any other real questions there, but thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry it wasn't sort of content filled. I just kind of wanted to give you my download on the forum and how good it was and how much I'm looking forward to doing it in the future. I hope everyone's doing really well. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll be back in Australia tomorrow, and I hope to get back into the swing of things with some reviews. I've got some ideas for some really good reviews coming up soon. As soon as the website is live, I will do probably an announcement on YouTube. Just, hey, the website's here, guys, come and join. Here's a link, here's a forum, let's do it. Let's get onto the website. But yeah, other than that, should be back into the normal swing of videos very shortly. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate all your comments as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.